So welcome to another unboxing video from theplayersaid.com. My name is Alexander, and today we're taking a look at Commands and Colors Ancients from GMT Games. Now, the Commands and Colors system isn't anything new. System created a few years back. It's a system created, and you can see designed by Richard Borg on this here. We have the base game, we have expansion number 1, and in the deluxe box, expansions 2 and 3. So we're going to kind of take a look at everything, because they just did a big reprint of all of these, so they're all available for at the same time, which they haven't been for a while. This is a 2-player tactical war game. It's a very light war game, very enjoyable. Basically anyone can play this. There's many iterations of this. I think there's a American Revolutionary War version. There's a Napoleonic version. There's Memoir 44, which is a World War II version. There's the Great War Commander, which is a World War I version. I mean, there are endless iterations of this system. I think Battle Law uses the same system. It's fantasy. I mean, there's just so much out there. But this is Ancients, so this is a bit of historical. This is a block war game. So we're going to take a look at this, because this is a really good way of teaching some history that you might not otherwise touch on when you play your war games, especially for those who enjoy maybe a lighter war game, not as heavy into things like, you know, the Great Battles of History and all the Imperium Romanum heavy, you know, Ancients games. This is something to look at, okay? So we're going to start with the base game here, and we'll kind of set these back aside. So the base game is a big 3-inch box. There's a ton of wood in here. The base game comes with 15 battles, and this is Rome against Carthage and Syracuse. So when you think of Carthage, you're thinking war elephants, pike units, and when you're thinking of Romans, you've got, you know, spear cavalry, you've got Roman legions, things like that. So we'll crack this open, and the first thing you can see is an unbelievable amount of wooden blocks. I've played a lot of block war games in my time. This is a lot of blocks. So there's grey and brown, and there's some black ones down here at the bottom as well. What you'll notice is that some of these are taller than the others. Most of them are these square blocks, but every so often you got these longer blocks as well. And those longer blocks are used for some special units in the game. But basically there's a ton of these, and what you're going to do is you're going to put stickers on them so that they end up kind of looking like these. And you can see the bigger blocks are things like the war elephants or different bits and pieces. So there's a ton of these blocks. You have some custom dice, and these are kind of they're black plastic dice with custom faces. These are stickered faces. You do have to put the stickers on these. I already had Grant put the stickers on these already. So, but you're going to roll these dice, and depending on the outcomes, that's what happens. So you get a good number of those. You have a deck of cards. This is a card-driven system. Basically, these are your command cards. You just shuffle this deck, and the cards tell you what you can do. So you'll have a hand of X amount of cards, depending on the scenario, depending on which faction you are. And this said, Inspired Left Leadership. And so you issue an order to units under one leader's command in the left section, which is the leader's hex and 4 adjacent linked hexes, or one unit of your choice. If you've got a good leader with some adjoining units, he can order them all, so you can do a big kind of push on the left flank. And that's basically, you do 1 in each section. Do 3 on the right. And I'll show you what this is and what that means with regards to the actual board here in just a second. When you see the board, you'll understand what these cards relate to. And then there's some kind of special ones: mounted charge, line command, first strike, double time, darken sky, so you can fire twice with ranged units, things like that. So this is a deck of cards. You can shuffle them, and you'll have a bunch in your hand. You can basically do one of your cards, and so you'll limited by what you've got on your hand, so there's a bit of randomness through that. You get a bad hand, you might have a hard time making a big push kind of a thing, but that's a big part of this game. The rulebook here, this is the 4th edition. A nice picture of a war elephant here. Who doesn't like that? 24 pages of rules. Let's see. Yeah, this is a deeper explanation of each of the individual cards, which is nice. If you have any questions, special units, leaders. But really, it's got very detailed diagrams of movement, formations, attacking, things like that, close combat, foot movement. And really, there's nothing to be scared of with this. It might seem like a lot of dense text for most non-war gamers, but this is not anything you should be worried about. GMT makes very good rule books, I've found. Very clear. If you're a GMT enthusiast, this will be very digestible. The rules for these games are not complex. This is more complex than something like Memoir 44, only in the sense that your leaders actually command certain hexes that you have to pay attention to, and your battle lines are very important for those cards. It said things like they had to be linked. You have to have them in a good order battle lines, basically. You can't just have them sporadically dotted around. These aren't paratroopers who are acting independently, right? So here's a big part of what we're looking at here. Okay. So there's some plaids and bits and pieces we'll get to. But we have a ton of stickers. There are 3 sticker sheets. And you can see here we have, like, there's some Carthaginian chariots, leaders, heavy cavalry, some spares. So you're probably not going to use these, but as spares, if you end up losing a block, get some more heavy infantry. And what's nice, it tells you here. This is really, really nice that they do that. Light slings, auxiliaries, or auxilia, I guess. Light cavalry, medium cavalry, elephants. Those are so cool. On this one, these were the stickers for the dice. So there's Roman flags, more Carthaginians here. There's some Roman heavy infantry. And we actually have, I'm in the process of getting the other sticker sheet. I got 2 of the sheet 2 of 3s. So there's sheet 1's actually missing. I got erroneously the wrong sheet, so they're sending a new one of those. That's got all the Roman blocks on it. You have a little command reference sheet, and there's 2 of these, and they're bifolds and they're identical. So if ever you forget what's what, or you need to know which unit rolls how many dice and at what range, etc., this is a little handy card you're going to have out. Some close combat dice chart as well. So just read the rules once, you'll have this handy to play with. Probably not going to be looking at the rules too much. Very, very good. Both players have got one of those. Here's the scenario book. And we said, I think it was 15 scenarios is what it said. So it starts from 406 BC all the way up to 202 BC. And let's just take a little look. Okay. Here's your little setup. It just, for the first one. Line up these guys, fight it out. Then you start getting into, there's a river over here with a hill over here. Different unit compositions. How are you going to afford these guys across the river? But the reality is, this is an Ancients game, so many of the scenarios are just like, they're lined up, and it's less about terrain, because the battles were fought on plains usually, and it's more about keeping your battle lines together. Can you keep your army in good formation, basically? Because if you can do that and maintain your line integrity, that's going to go a long way to actually being successful as an Ancients commander. But yeah, those are the scenarios. Now let's take a look at the map, and then we'll take a look back at the cards. So there's a couple of sheets of, you can see these are like falling out. These are very easy to punch. These are hex overlay tiles, like some beaches. These are some hills. There's like a little encampment, fortification line, some trees, kind of river bends, bits and pieces here as well, some rough terrain, more rivers. These punch very easily. You're going to overlay those onto the map. You can see these fit perfectly over here. Oh look, there's a bit of ocean over here, kind of a thing. But the map itself is a reference for what those cards do and how this game plays. So this map is double-sided. If I can get it out. It's 22 by 34 inches. Look at that. It's a plain, kind of sandy board. Commands and Colors Ancients in the middle. The important part of this is you can see this black dotted line here, and there's another one over here. And those basically divide the battlefield into these sections. So in my hand, I have this card here. It says, issue an order to 2 units and or leaders in the left section. If I play this, I can do that here and only here. Which, depending on your hand, what you have, you've got some choices. Do I command over here, or do I do like one in each? And you get some really, really important choices. Sometimes you have choices in your hand, sometimes your hand, like I said, not very good. And you're like, I really desperately need to do something over here, but I only have cards for the middle. And so you start getting into some real problems about managing your hand, trying to form a defensive position whilst you get out some good cards to then make a big attack, right? That's a lot of what this game is. Again, you've got these tiles you'll put out for some terrain. Like the scenario said, oh look, there's a bit of a river, or there's some hills over here. You just use those as an overlay setup. For these scenarios, it's not over long because there's not that much. The other side of the board is frankly identical. Ah, it's not. Okay. So, here's the important part. This is your normal map. And I know the other side looked identical, but it is not. So the other side, here you go. Sure, it doesn't have that thing in the middle. But if you look at this edge, it's not finished off. You can get another copy of this and stick 2 boards together and start playing it like epic games where you have huge armies, things like that. That's not of it in this, but you can start combining them if you like this and when you get more and more and more. You see that played at conventions, things like that. So, that's the map. The cards, like I said, very practical. You shuffle them up, everyone draws from the same deck. But the main thing is I have 1,000,000 blocks and I have 1,000,000 stickers to go through to put them all on. So I'm going to spend some time putting these together and then we're going to start duking it out on the battlefield. So that's the base game. We do have, like I said, a couple of the expansions, which we'll take a quick look at. The expansions mostly are army expansions. So we're going to take it, expansion number 1. This is Greece versus the Eastern Kingdoms. So the other one was Romans and Carthaginians. These are Greeks and Eastern. So they use the same system. This is just, here's the armies and here's a bunch more scenarios, okay? So these blocks are actually divvied up into bags. I don't know if these are based on size. It looks like they are. So these are a very small wooden block. These are that same size as in the base game. And then we have the large ones of both colors. Same thing for the blues. We have very small ones and the medium normal ones. Okay. And these are kind of these are the very big ones. And these are slightly in between. Those are smaller but elongated. More dice. Some very small black ones as well. They give you a bag of bags in this one, which is nice. So we can kind of arrange those how we might want, if we so chose. And then we have the expansion rules and scenarios. So this has more rules in it. New game mechanics, so there's some special unit blocks, sacred band, added examples and clarifications. So for new, more clarifications, see, there's like really 1.5 page, maybe like 1-2 pages of new stuff, not a lot. And then there is, let's see, is this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 new scenarios. That's more than double what you get in the base game combined. So that's very, very nice. And these are Greeks and Eastern kingdoms. So you've got a mixture of Macedonians. Well, the Macedonians that use the Greek blocks, but it's Persians, Scythians, Indians. There's a whole bunch in here. Spartans, Thebans, Macedonians, Phoenicians, Spartans, Persians. I mean, Syracuse, Carthage. There's a ton of stuff in here. It's just more, right? You don't need this if you have the base game, but if you like this system and you like this and you want to learn some history, right? There's literally twice as much of Commands and Colors Ancients in this box. And then we have expansion 2 and 3. They combined these in here. And here we have, this is Romans versus the Barbarians and the Roman Civil War. So you've got some red and grey blocks. And then this is as many as the base game. You've got green and red blocks as well. And we'll take a little look here. This is expansion 2. So this is Rome and the Barbarians, which are these red and green ones here. So this has 23 battles. That's even more than expansion 1. New unit types, barbarian light chariots, couple special block mechanics and rules, really 1 page, 2 pages, and then some details on that, and then it's 23 scenarios, right? So this is a bunch of barbarians, so it's Gauls against Romans, Germanic tribes, some slaves, slave army, Germanic tribe. This one, it's got someone with a bit more terrain here. Slaves armies, slave armies, Gauls, Belgics, Britons, Germanic tribes, Britons. So yeah, an absolute ton. And this looks like 225 BC all the way to 51 AD. And then, with these grey and red blocks, you have, this is Roman civil wars, so you'll have basically 2 Roman factions fighting against each other. This has only 19 scenarios in it. It's still more than the base game. And you got reds as your kind of Romans and grey as your opposition. Romans Samnites, Romans Sertorian, Helvetii, Germanic, Gaul, Numidians, Pompeians, who knows? I'm not good with my pronunciation, but again, there's so much game in any one of these expansions. You don't have to get these all if you don't want to, but if you're a collector, you're getting your money's worth at least, especially if you've got a regular opponent. Now this one does have a full set of play aids. 1, 2, 3, 4 play aids. Interesting. Again, it's the same as the other one from the base game, but you have the new kind of unit types and some clarifications in here. So these are the expansion ones. And so this is for the Rome and the Barbarian expansion 2, and then the Rome Civil Wars expansion 3, which they're all in this one box together. And again, we have an insane amount of, this one has some new tiles if you can't see, but we have an insane amount of stickers to do. Alright, expansion, alright, so we have the Civil War, sheet 1 of 2 and sheet 2 of 2. These are all going on these blocks. And then for this huge bag we have 5 sheets. This is sheet 1. So you got Julius Caesar, Roman cavalry, Roman auxilia, Roman light infantry. Where's the legions? Medium infantry. There you go, your heavy infantry. That's the good stuff right there. medium cavalry, leaders and barbarians. Barbarian leaders. Look at these barbarian auxilia. Just guys in pants with a shield and a spear kind of thing. So cool. A ton of chariots. Those are so cool. It looks like we have some... Well, I don't know about you, but that looks like some sort of catapult or trebuchet there. That's pretty cool. I don't know if that's actually what that is, but that's what it looks like to me. And then some special units and bits and pieces over there. So these are, it says spares. I presume that's, you don't actually use those. But if you need them, because you ruin a block or something, you've got them. These are more tiles. It looks like you've kind of got some swampy type terrain. And then some more of your rough, hill, fortification, trees, so your normal stuff there. So you get actually quite a lot of extra stuff in here. So if you're going for bumper, this expansion 2 and 3 box, you get, what was it, 19 and 23 scenarios? I mean, you're getting 3 times as much game in this box added onto your base game. So that's very, very nice if that's something that you're into. So that was a look at Commands and Colors Ancients with expansion number 1 and expansion number 2 and 3 in a combined box. So if this is something you're interested in, they're available now, which is great. This is the most recent printing, and you know, get them whilst they're hot kind of a thing. This is a great learning tool and a great light war game. It's not something overly heavy, like, oh, it's Ancients, that might scare people off. This system is so quick and easy to set up and play that we're gonna crack it open and play it as soon as possible, so we can kind of sit down and do an official review for you. So appreciate you guys tuning in. This is Command and Colors Ancients from Richard Borg, put out by GMT Games, and I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.